What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be talking about my experience living and working without a car for 2 whole years. So for those that don't know me, I'm an American currently living and working in Tokyo. I first actually stopped using my car when I was in California. I had lived in Silicon Valley for a couple of years before I moved to Tokyo. The last couple of months before I moved, I sold my car. So anyways, I was living in California for a couple of years, and then I decided that it made sense for me to go without a car for a couple of months. But honestly, that was really hard when I was in California, because in California things are pretty far apart from each other. So I had to bike to work every day, and it was I think a 2 or 3 mile bike ride into work. So I was biking maybe 5 or 6 miles every single day just to get to work. And then if I wanted to go anywhere farther, I had to bum a ride from a friend. But in Tokyo, things are a little bit different. In Tokyo, there's really good public transportation, so it's not really a big deal for me not to have a car. So I think the biggest pro to having a car, saving money. So I would pay maybe around $300 to $400 a month just on gas for my car. On top of that, I had to pay car insurance. I had to pay maintenance. So for example, I would pay maybe to get new tires, if there was any damage, the tires aligned, rotated, oil change, all of that. Also, there was the cost of parking that I had to deal with. Finding a place to park, was it a safe place? I used to live on a street where I needed to park my car, so there was cost associated with that. So once I left my car parked out in front of my house and I came back the next day and I found that my window had been cracked. There was a hairline crack throughout the entire windshield. I don't know if like a nut or something dropped on it, but all said and done, I was paying maybe around $400 to $500 a month. But that wasn't even including if I had a car payment. So that wasn't a factor that I was associating. But if I did have to pay a car payment, that could easily be another $300, $400 a month. So I think it'd be very, very easy to spend $1,000 a month just on car costs alone. Maintenance, car payment, insurance, parking. Plus, then you actually even have to drive. If you used Uber for something, then they would drive you. Or if you take a train or public transportation, you can do other things. But when you're driving, you have to be fully devoted to the road. And you're not allowed to, for example, drink and drive. But if you don't have a car, that won't happen, because you're not going to be drinking and driving. Not having a car, I'm able to structure my life. Everything is more convenient and I'm closer to things. So right now, I walk to work. It takes me about 30 minutes to walk to work, which is really nice. And if I had a car, I would maybe be more likely to live a little bit farther away. But now, I decided to pick a location where I'm close to restaurants and close to a grocery store. So probably near my house, there is probably about 100 restaurants within a 5-10 minute walk from my house. Whereas if I had a car, and when I had a car, there wasn't nearly that many restaurants within a 5-minute walk. I think there was maybe 5. But there is some cons to not having a car. I think that probably the biggest con is a lack of freedom. So when I was living in the United States, I used to travel around a lot. I went to probably a different national park almost at least once a month. I would go hiking and camping, and I would go multiple times a month. And when I had a car, I could just go. I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to plan. I would just drive there. I'm in Japan and I'm taking public transportation. I can't just go. I need to think and plan and possibly buy tickets or look at where the bus goes or see where the train goes. But with a car, I didn't have to think about any of that. When I don't have a car, there is a big lack of freedom, and that stinks. You still need to pay train tickets and buses, and sometimes it's more expensive when you don't have a car. So for example, it would cost you a certain amount of money to go drive somewhere, but it might cost you even more to fly somewhere, because then you have to go to the airport, you have to think about luggage, packing a bag. It's just a pain, but when you have a car, you can just drive right there. Unfortunately, while my life is really great without a car, I think that if I was living in the countryside or in the United States, you pretty much need a car because everything is so spread out, which really stinks actually, because biggest reasons why people have a hard time moving up in the world is because they lack access to transportation. Because think about it, if you can't have access to your job, because if you need a car and you can't get there, how is someone going to actually hire you? Because you would only be able to get a job in places that you're able to work to. Or if the public transportation isn't that good, you're going to have a really hard time actually getting to work. So I think realistically, if you're in the United States, unless you're living in maybe New York City or Boston, or maybe if you're downtown in San Francisco or something like that, you can probably get by without a car. But everywhere else, unfortunately, I think you need a car. In Tokyo, should be no problem. Absolutely, if you're in the United States, I think you need a car. If you're in Japan, or if you're a place with good public transportation, I don't think you necessarily need a car and you can get by. So my experience without a car for 2 years has actually been great. If you can structure your life where you don't need a car, if you can be close enough to restaurants, close enough to your work, if you can figure out how to get your daily items, whether through Amazon Prime, you can figure out how to get to the grocery store, you can figure out how to get to work, and you can figure out some restaurants, and that's within a walking distance, I think you can do it. You don't need a car. Plus, if you ever need to go a longer distance, you can either take public transportation or you can honestly even rent a car. So I think if you can do it, it's really going to be a great thing for you. I made this video in collaboration with SparkPass, who also had a really interesting video about whether or not you need cars. So if you like videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe. See you next time.